What creepy things have your kids said? We were house hunting with my wife and daughter, who was about 6 or 7. After viewing a house, I asked her how she liked it. She said, "I didn't like it, there are shadows in there." The next day, our realtor told us that a man who had lived there had committed suicide in that house, in the very room where our daughter saw the shadows. We decided not to buy it. This happened just last week. We were playing in my bedroom when my 2-year-old daughter decided to go into the closet and shut the door. She immediately shouted, "Mommy, dark." I agreed and went in with her. She shut the door behind me and said, "Ghost." Then, slightly disappointed, she added, "The ghost is missing." I asked, surprised, "The ghost is missing?" She said, "Yes. A tiny ghost." I said, "A tiny ghost?" She said, "Ghost boo-boo." I asked, "The ghost has a boo-boo?" She nodded and pointed to different parts of her body. Neck, head, chin. Then she added, "The ghost fell down the stairs." After that, she ran around the room shouting, "Ghost, where are you?" Then she ran to the window. "Ghost outside." And then, as if that wasn't enough, she shouted, "Daddy Ghost. Daddy Ghost is trouble." She ran out, and I followed her to the attic door. She put her head to the door and said, "Mommy, listen. Daddy Ghost." Thankfully, I heard nothing. She happily went off to play like nothing had happened. The next day, she said the ghost was playing hide and seek outside, and today she looked for it in the closet again. Meanwhile, I wondered if checking the house's history would be comforting or terrifying. I bought an old antique armchair from the 19th century. The kids loved it, but I started feeling like someone was watching me at night. Soon, my son told me he had seen me standing in the living room, wearing old clothes. I sold the chair and cleansed the room. When my oldest son was 2 and my middle son about a month old, I woke up to the sounds of my husband and son screaming in the middle of the night. They were both screaming at the same time from different rooms. My son ran into my room. "There's a man in my room." My husband jumped out of bed. "Someone's in the house." I had no idea what was happening. While my husband checked the house, my son asked, "Who was that man in my room?" and mimicked someone running their fingers through his hair. A week later, while my son was playing in his room, he said, "Mommy, that man is back." I went in. "Where is he?" "Standing in the corner, just watching me. Tall, wearing blue." Later, we got into the car, and he suddenly said, "I know him. He's the one who has been in my room." It turned out to be a memorial plaque of my father, who passed away in 2009, 6 years before my son was born. My cousin told me that when he was a kid, while riding with our grandma and great-grandma past a McDonald's, he said, "I remember when this was a fire station. They came to help when my house burned down." Our great-grandma confirmed that it really had been a fire station. I live a few houses away from a place where a little girl was severely abused and died. Whenever we walk by, my 15-month-old son tries to go to the window, waving and saying, "Hi." He even shows her his toys. It creeps me out a bit, and I hope the little girl's spirit has found peace. My sister, who was raised in a very strict religious household, once woke us up saying that people in the walls were talking to her. They wanted to cut her body into pieces, she said, showing how they would cut arms and legs. We let her sleep in our room for several months. When my daughter was about 2, she sat up in her crib around 1 a.m., looked at the baby monitor, and whispered, singing, "Ring Around the Rosie," a pocket posy, twice. Then she lay back down and went to sleep. My sons were sleeping in their room when I suddenly felt like someone was watching me. My youngest son, around 5, was standing in the dark, just staring at me. I asked, "What's wrong?" He said, "I'm glad you woke up, Mama. The girl in my room said she would leave me alone if you got up." I turned on the lights and checked the room. There was nothing. It never happened again. My 6-year-old son often says this is his second life. He's like a little old man. He loves Elton John, coffee, cereal, and prunes. Recently, he said, "Before I was in your belly, I was in a grave." My daughter asked why her grandma woke her up in the middle of the night and took her to the bathroom. This had never happened before. The next morning, I noticed the bathroom light was on. She had never met her grandmother. My little brother used to be scared of a blue man. He described a tall, thin man in a suit who would appear under his bed or stand over him. Our mom believed in these kinds of presences, but our dad was skeptical. Sometimes, around 2 to 3 a.m., I could smell faint tobacco smoke even though no one smoked. After we moved, the new owners said their dogs would bark like crazy in the same room my brother had seen the blue man. When my daughter was about 2.5, she started waving and talking to someone in the attic. She called her friend Apopel. According to my daughter, Apopel was all alone because her family had died. She would sit in the corner of the attic, pulling out her long black hair. 2 months later, I noticed a bald spot on my head. Doctors said it was alopecia. My daughter said we didn't need to be afraid of Apopel because she didn't do anything. Apopel stayed with us for about 6 months, and then she was never mentioned again.